In 1974, a NASA engineer published a book claiming the prophet Ezekiel didn't see a vision of God. He saw a spaceship. The book was The Spaceships of Ezekiel by Joseph Blumrich. And Blumrich wasn't some guy in a tinfoil hat. He was a real engineer at NASA, working on the Saturn V. He actually set out to debunk the ancient astronaut idea, and instead he convinced himself. He produced engineering drawings, landing legs, a rotor system, and when you read Ezekiel chapter 1 with that in your head, I'll be honest with you, it is seductive. Wheels within wheels. Read that as an engineer and you see gimbals. You see rotors, you see landing gear, and the rims are full of eyes all around. Or are they windows? Rows of round portals catching the light. Fire gleaming metal, the sound of rushing wings like the noise of a great army. It's a launch. It writes itself. But even back then, I knew what I was doing. This back in the 70s. I was still a young Christian when I first heard this. Eisegesis. Eisegesis is reading into the text. Reading into the text what you brought with you. The opposite of exegesis, which is drawing out of the text what's actually there. Now, Blumrich brought a spacecraft to Ezekiel. And so, surprise, he found a spacecraft in Ezekiel. A 20th century engineer found 20th century engineering in a 6th century BC prophet. That's not discovery, not at all. That's a mirror. I knew it was eisegesis, and I filed it away, and that was that. Well, for about 40 years or so, 50 years, I don't know how young I was as a Christian when I did that, but I did it. Then 3 years ago, I read a book called AI Narratives. It's a history of how humans have imagined intelligent machines. And here's what stopped me cold. The history doesn't start with computers. It doesn't start with Frankenstein. It starts with Homer. Not that Homer. 28 centuries ago, in the Iliad and the Odyssey, there are machines. Real, described, functioning machines built by Hephaestus, the god of the forge. He makes golden servant women like robots. Homer says they have understanding in their hearts, much like AI, speech and strength, and they hold him up and help him walk because Hephaestus, I keep on saying Hephaestus. Is it Hephaestus or Hephaestus? You guys let me know. Hephaestus is lame. And they help him. The golden robot women help him walk. In the Iliad, he builds 20 three-legged tables, tripods on golden wheels that roll themselves to the assembly of the gods and roll themselves home again. These are like delivery robots. 2,800 years ago. And in the Odyssey, there's an island, the Phaeacians. They have ships with no pilots and no rudders. And you just tell the ship where to go, where you want it to go, and it takes you there. Have we seen that today? Self-driving cars. It knows the route. It navigates by itself, avoiding rocks, through fog, without fear of wreck, self-driving ships. So the ancient world could imagine automata, vividly, in detail, and that raised a question I couldn't really let go of. Is there automata in the Bible? I laugh because, down deep I'm thinking, no, but I still want to check it out. I'm going to push it. I went looking, and right away, nothing. No golden servants, of course not, I knew that. But no self-rolling anything. The Bible has plenty of idols. But the verdict on those by the prophets is brutal. They have mouths, but they cannot speak. They have eyes, but they can't see. If anything, the Bible goes out of its way to mock the very idea of man-made things that can act alive. But there was one place I hadn't looked closely. The place I'd walk away from 40 years ago. Ezekiel's vision. Now, one rule before I started, and I want to be clear about it, because this is the parameter for everything I do for this channel. Proper exegesis. I was not going to do Ezekiel what Bloomrich did to Ezekiel. Whatever I found had to come out of the text, period. I wasn't allowed to smuggle anything in. And this time, I had research partners. I put Gemini and Perplexity, 2 AI chatbots, to work, both of them, side by side. From time to time, I would also use ChatGPT and Grok. But I trusted Gemini and Perplexity far more because, well, I use them more, but also both can run deep searches, both surfaced real sources, hundreds of sources that I could read. Of course, I'm reading. Journal articles, ancient Near East scholarship, things I'd never have found alone. And both of them told me the same thing. There is no automata in the Bible. Over and over again, I was pushing to find it. Now, that got my attention, and maybe not for the reason you'd think, because if you've spent any time with these AI tools, you would know they're besetting sin. They like to agree with you. They flatter you. You bring them a bad idea wrapped in enthusiasm, and they'll help you decorate it. So when two of them independently push back, and I think the other two did too, when they both say, no, this is not worth it, and not worth noting, believe me, I was pushing them as well as prompting them every way I could think of to bend their arms, to say, yes, there's something. But I wasn't done because they hadn't seen what I was seeing. I dug into the text myself, slowly, more and more. Sure, I'd read it lots of times in the past, but this time far deeper. I wanted to find out everything about it, and I want to show you what's actually there, what I discovered, because it's stranger than the spaceship. The 4 living creatures, the cherubim, Ezekiel later calls them cherubim, they appear to be fixed positions, 4 of them, each with 4 faces, facing the 4 directions at once, north, south, east, west, like a formation, like an array. They move in fixed directions. The text is very explicit about this, and it repeats it. Each one went straight forward. They went every one straight forward. Wherever the Spirit would go, they went, without turning as they went. They never turn. They don't need to. Whichever way they move, there's already a face pointing that direction, and they dart. The living creatures darted to and fro like the appearance of the flash of the lightning. Back and forth, lightning speed, precise, repeating inhumanly fast. Fixed stations, fixed vectors, no turning, darting motion, wheels that move within them, rims full of eyes. Do you see it? So many things in this vision look like they could be automata. Rigid geometry, constrained movement, mechanical precision. If Homer's tripods qualify, why not this? And here I have to be honest with you, I've never really believed it was automata. What I was doing was pressure testing, pushing the case as hard as I could go to see if it would hold. That's not eisegesis, as long as I'm willing to lose, as long as I let the text win. And the text did win. 2 things turned the study around. The first was something Gemini said, and I don't remember what it said, unfortunately. But I do remember the effect. I remember the click going on in my head, the feeling of a door opening onto a different hallway and one closing. I could go back 2 years through my chats to find out what I said, but believe me, there's way too much information back and forth for me to find it. And it would take me hours to find it. It's just not worth it. The main thing is I did learn I had to quit. I just know what it said in one sentence that convinced me I would not find automata in Ezekiel's vision. That's all. Well, the second thing I do remember clearly, I started comparing his vision to dream interpretation. Not modern day Freud. The ancient world's own categories, how visions and dreams actually work in Scripture. Joseph, Daniel, the prophets. Symbol, not a schematic, meaning carried in images. And when he laid it all out, especially comparing it to Joseph's, here's the frame that I settled on and that settled it for me. In a courtroom, judges and juries don't ask whether a theory is possible. They ask which explanation matches the evidence most closely, which account leaves the fewest facts unexplained. Automata can grab a detail here and there, the fixed motion, the darting, the wheels, but it leaves the rest of the chapter homeless. The four faces, man, lion, ox, eagle, the expanse like awesome crystal, the throne of sapphire, the figure with the appearance of a man, wrapped in fire and brightness, and Ezekiel's own verdict on what he saw. Not such was the appearance of a machine, but such was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of God, and a voice, and a commission, and a prophet face down on the ground. Weigh all of it, and the evidence points somewhere else, far more strongly than it ever pointed to Automata or to Blumrich's spaceship. It points to the way God speaks in visions and in dreams. So Blumrich found a spacecraft because he brought in a spacecraft. I went looking for robots with a rule that I had to let the text win. And the text took the case away from me and handed me something better. Dream interpretation. How visions really work. What those four faces in that sapphire throne are actually saying. The court ruled against the spaceship. Next time we hear the winning argument. Let God be true and every man a liar. I'm Ted. This is Ted Thought. See you next time.